Alright, this video is actually kind of a response to a video that Brandon Mejia, the one who he played the Red Dino Charge Ranger Tyler. Uh, he actually put out his review of the top 10 reasons he thought that the 2017 Power Rangers movie failed. And I have to agree with a lot of what he said. Another guy just put out, and it just rekindled what my opinions were about the movie. So I'm going to try to make this video quick, and so people actually can get on. Because I actually left a comment on Brandon Mejia's website to cover some, so I'm going to try to go through it and try to be as brief as possible. So with that out of the way, here we go. Now, I'm not going to base it on what Mejia said. These are my opinions, but some of the sections that he said, I'll probably go through. My biggest problem with this movie, is one, going into what he said is the designs of the characters. Now, I'm just going to go my first opinion when I saw the Power Rangers photos of the production and the designs of what they were doing. They showed the helmets of the Rangers. They don't reflect the animals that they're connected with. Now, if you look at any of the Power Rangers, they actually helmets reflect of what the theme of the show is, versus the villains. The dinosaur themes actually had, you could clearly tell which ranger is format to which animal. Like if it was a T Rex, pterodactyl, or such and such, so and so. Uh, Even Mystic Force, Operation Overdrive, the every every single one, you have a clear representation of what the Rangers' main base of the powers were. Uh, and if people don't know, Super Mega Force, which actually is the powered up versions, are pirate theme for Gokingers. Going back to this movie, when I first saw the set, the Red Ranger's helmet is the only one. Pink Ranger's helmet. Those two reflected the dinosaurs enough, but with the Red Ranger's helmet, it kind of looked like a lizard. And I'm not talking about a lizard like a T Rex. I'm talking about a gecko. It looked like it was having something going on, but it didn't have the teeth motif that I actually know of the classic Red Ranger's helmet. The other Rangers, like yellow, black, and blue, when they were not colored, I couldn't even tell which animal they were. It was so obscured. You had to squint to actually figure it out. You had to actually see all the different directions to even. And after that, it's like 5 minutes have to go by seeing each helmet to figure out which helmet is which. With the Macedon, I don't see the tusk. I don't see the trunk of the animal. I don't even see the eyes. The saber-tooth tiger, it's all obscured. The suits also had another problem, is the blue veins of it. Is they designed the suits to actually look like it had powers flowing through them. Each of the but all were blue. Now, my biggest gripe with that is that it's supposed to reflect the energy veins, what I'm going to say, it should reflect each ranger. Now, perfect example, Star Wars lightsabers. If you look at any of them, they're glowing a different color scheme. First off, they only had the blue and red lightsabers at first, but then they had the green, and then when they gone into the prequel series, every single color is represented in that movie. So why couldn't they actually took that lighting effect and actually apply it to the Rangers? I don't understand that. Also, the chest, each of the chest actually was still that blue nebula energy field. Now, if you look at any of the photos from the Hubble telescopes or anything like that that's taken pictures of nebulas and they altered it so people can see. Those are beautiful pictures of different nebulas. They all have different colors and you can actually format that. Why couldn't they actually do that for each of the Rangers? And then if they actually power up, they actually have the reputation of like a white nebula that had different colors in it that to blast, but they never actually had the power blaster, so they wouldn't actually charge up for a final attack. That actually never happened in the movie. They could have done that, but again, so I don't like how they actually choose the energy that's flowing through the suits and the helmets. The suits themselves, there's too much details, and the Zords too much micro details. Now what I'm saying, making an emphasize on these details is because I'm going to go to Michael Bay. Michael Bay, when he wanted to do Transformers first, he wanted to have these unusual designs for the robots first. Like Optimus Prime was supposed to be all blue, no red, because he hated the red being picked up by the cameras that he was using. But beside that, is that he wanted the wheels to be separated. He wanted weird things to happen, and like one part that's supposed to be front of the car is now in, let's say the nose would actually separate into the foot and also the arms. That actually could never actually work as a toy. But he stopped and he gone to Hasbro and say, "Can think of these designs?" But they say we can't actually make toys out of that. When you ever make a property that's actually like a cartoon series or anything that actually was talking kids, that the fandom and everything, it's supposed to actually actually well put this. When you're actually ever making a property that actually was originally, one of the concepts were to create unique designs to sell to kids, you got to actually go with that route. So I'm not being very clear. For instance, He-Man and Master Universe, the Transformers, Voltron, all of these different properties had these toy lines. Why would kids actually buy it? Because of this franchise. You're supposed to reflect what's actually in the movie or show or whatever you want that you put out, and make kids want to get something that represents what they've seen. In the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they actually used the toys for the transformation of the Megazord, and then they cut away into the person that's in the suit and use graphics and stuff. Kids see that, they want to have that because they want to feel like they have something from the show. Also, uh, and that's one problem that this movie had. They said in the behind the screens, if I remember correctly, which I most likely am, is that they said they wanted to make these as realistic as possible and step away from the kids' fantasy, kid style of Power Rangers. Really, you guys actually planned on actually trying to do that and expect it's going to do well? The Power Ranger franchises relies mostly the toy brand to sell the toys and figures and collectibles to the public to make something that keeps on going. And that's how the movie failed, is that the Zords, the suits, all the designs of the monsters, they did not work well with the toy brands. I wish they actually gone to Bandai and say, we're going to make a Power Rangers, we have these designs, what do you think? And I think they would have gone through and do a whole lot of editing so they could actually reproduce it in the front. The Another problem that I had with the film is that they didn't use the power morphers. They only had the power coins. The power coins were just simple circles with the different colors in the center. You don't see the holographic of the animals. They should have represented that more clearly. They could have actually looked at it while Zordon explaining like each of the coins is formatted to connected to a animal that's actually prehistoric in nature, and could have actually did close up and could have seen the holographic of the animals inside, but they didn't. Even the original Power Rangers, you could see that the emblems of each of the morphers if you actually looked at it. But they didn't do it. They didn't even have the Power Morphers, which they try to have that for a toy, and it was not even featured or was a big component in the movie. Another thing that they did is the bladed weapon that they had for the Power Rangers. That could have been, they called it the Power Sword, but for the Red Ranger. But they could easily just did what Target did is that they changed the colors on it, and instead of calling it the Power Sword, could call it the Blade Blaster. Now, the Blade Blaster is supposed to be the sidearms of the first five Rangers. The Green Ranger had the Dragon Flute, and he didn't have the sidearm. But all the other Rangers, if you watch the original Mind Morphins, the Power Rangers, they actually had the sidearms called the Blade Blasters. It had three transformations. One is the what's I think it's called the Power Stick formation. Is that the Rangers of pink and yellow jumps on blue, I mean black and red shoulders, and they form a star formation, charging a sphere and launching that at the enemy. That's one, the final attack. The other forms is a sword form that for a side blade armor, and it also can convert into a gun form so they can shoot. Now the blade blaster could have what the power sword could have. That's actually the what the Red Ranger used. Could have been used as a laser, and then slice, but they could have actually had it convert into a gun form, but they didn't take that route. I wish they did, but they didn't. For the movie, it would have been just a copy and paste. I mean, how many uh, on set duplicates did they make for the movie? They could have had all the Rangers actually had them, but they didn't. Okay, Zords, it goes back into the toy franchise and the designs is that you can't actually see what mainly they actually messed up the designs of the Zords because again they tried to make this movie grounded in reality as much as possible and make everything alien looking. They said they wanted to use Alpha 5 as the basis, and I'm going to go to that Alpha 5 later, but um, the Zords were supposed to be based on his technology where it can stretch and format into different uh, formations, but uh, they messed up the anatomy of the dinosaurs gravely. Uh, the Triceratops, I believe, had six legs. The Mastodon, if you can call it the Mastodon, actually had like uh, eight legs. And the saber-toothed tiger, it looks like it had something over its head, like a helmet. But the T-Rex looked okay, the pterodactyl as well. But again, it doesn't actually. It looked like the pterodactyl was more like a fighter jet, not a actual pterodactyl. It was like a pterodactyl themed fighter jet. So, but again, they mangled the designs. They should have actually looked at the original anatomy of these prehistoric animals and see, okay, like how can we get away with this? I feel like the mastodon they could have actually had the broader shoulders that emphasize strength, and they could have actually had it have how the Mastodon and the Triceratops could had hover technology like gravity legs that actually propel them with rockets or something, but they didn't. So that is a big drawback. Another aspect is the Megazord configurations did not work well because it would look like you could fit any of the Zords to form this. All the Rangers actually had didn't had a master cockpit for the Megazord. The head actually was just blank. It looked like um uh I think one person said is that the Zords were supposed to take the formation of the most powerful life form on the planet, but when what you call Golda, that mainly looked like a golden nacho cheese monster pushing the Zords in, and when the Megazord came out, it's kind of like another version, just Zord formation. So in other words, they kind of like took the Megazord, designed that, trying to figure out what Golda looked like, so they just take it, painted it gold, and stopped melting it, and then said, "That's Golda." No, no, the Megazord is supposed to have its own look, and Golda is supposed to have his own look. Then that's supposed to look like anything. Also, we didn't get a transformation sequence in it. That would have been better. It's just they didn't really think of this through. And how long is this movie, anyways? If I can find, it's 122 minutes. So, 100, 124 minutes. Let's see. Divide that by 60 is roughly around 2 hours. So, a little bit above 2 hours. If yeah, it's about 2 hours and 4 minutes. So the fight. Another thing that they messed up on was the fight, or lack of fighting. We had mostly a training montage. Uh, Rita doesn't actually show herself to the Rangers until more than halfway through the movie, so it's more like a side quest. So I just have a lot of issues with this movie because they try to do some stuff that actually, specifically the designs, and they didn't know the direction of being more kid friendly or more teen. I think they actually tried to go with the more teen aspects, but they couldn't go with the light or heavy on the dark. It's like they gone a little dark, and then they say, no, we got to pull it back and be more kid friendly and such and such. Uh, Now, Mejia actually made a lot of sense of what he said, the pace and the tone and stuff. The characters actually did very well, and it goes off there. But what I would actually, so that's the review of the movie. Of clarification why I think was wrong. One is that they poor design choices. They tried to actually think of basing it on more realistic aspects, not the fantasy, off the wall, futuristic kind of setting. Uh, and it didn't reflect well in the toys and figures. It didn't actually like, oh, I gotta get this. Another thing about the toy franchise, toys I remember, is that they try to sell the individual Zords, and then they came out with a box set. When you actually have something that's supposed to combine, the best thing is to have it all in one set. At least like the first five Zords, so they can form Megazord. If you sell it individually, people actually, if they can't get one of these, the whole thing falls apart. You can't form it, and then you get angry kids and everything. But the Zords didn't look like they fit together in the movie. They tried to do it with toys. They did the toys okay, but still, and it's just the prices, tags, and everything they try to do is. Anyways, so out of that little spiel, I'm going to try to make this 10 minute. It's this video is about 20 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap it up. But if I actually had to um, make a sequel out of this movie, and they're not going to do it because it's been over how long? Almost 10 years. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to try to reboot it. But if I was going to make a sequel out of it, number one thing I want to do is that the Rangers loses the power coins and the Zords because they're going through a metamorphosis. Oh, and another aspect of this movie I forgot to mention: Krispy Kremes. Everybody will say Krispy Kremes. Now, people say, "Oh, Krispy Kremes is a perfect thing." Let me let me just be emphasis on this, okay? The original Power Rangers had the Zeo crystal underneath Rita's palace on the moon. They could have said that when Earth was actually, then I had the moon, and it was actually larger. The explosion from the Zeo crystal actually propelled the Zeo crystal in orbit around the Earth, and Zordon and the Rangers were trying to protect a temple there, while the wizards that was part of their forces was putting a field up around it, and Zordon defeated Rita before she could get the Zeo crystal, and the temple is actually now housing and sealed the Zeo crystal away. Now, people say the moon is not essential. It is essential because it actually controls the tides of the water, the formation, the seasonings, and the rotation of the Earth. If you remove the moon from the Earth, a lot of things are going to happen that's actually going to cause global threat. So the Zeo crystal could have actually controlled that, but or created that to make sure life continues. In fact, in the prehistoric time, if you actually look at it, the moon was actually um, was literally had fires and volcanoes on the moon that was going off. It's so maybe that was actually an aspect. But going back to in other words, the Zeo crystal was supposed to be on the moon, not on Earth under where they built Krispy Kreme. I don't know why. We don't even have Krispy Kreme up here, so yeah. All right. So I got to make this quick. So if I actually had to make a sequel of the movie, I would have the Zeo crystal disappear, but actually affected the Zords and the energy that actually was pelled into the Earth crust. The Zords and coins actually reacted to that, had to go into the Earth to stabilize it. The Rangers are without the powers, and this would be after the comic book. And in the comic book, there was some two people that was actually infected with the gold remain putties that actually they were infected by it and actually turned themselves into it was, I believe, a brother and sister combo, but it could have been something else, combined to form a golem type monster, and the Rangers defeated. Now this secret organization took them and placed them in containment, um, and I think they did a name drop of Finster. So with that set up, when the Rangers lose their powers and everything, they have to go back to life and hopefully maintain their identities. But at the same time, Lokar from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers swallows up Rita Repulsa in a nebula and actually gives her a new staff, which actually gives her a new suit. And he informs her is that if she fails any, she only has this amount of time before Lord Zed shows up and cleans up the mess. And they could have like a little tiff there. So Rita, actually realizing that she only has time, she needs to regather her powers and try to find new forces to help her. She goes down pretends to be. She infiltrates the secret organization because she sends the remains of Golda and tries to figure out a way to probably use them to fight the Rangers. Finds Finster, who's a mad scientist who's studying the effects of the remnants of the gold and putty remains and these two individuals. She uses the gold from Golda to convert the two the brothers and sisters who got infected into the actual Golda and Scorpina by using animal DNA that the scientist had, and he also she would infect this mad scientist to become Finster, who then actually is able to manipulate the putty remains to become even stronger and what we know and aspect. Another thing that they could have done in the sequel is have the putties breaking apart and infecting, encapsulating people into putties while Golda and Scorpina is going out. Even and Rita is actually able to use some of the putties that actually infected, and Finster, who is created. Uh, I do not know if they would create a uh, baboon and squat in the movie, but it'd be an interesting concept of seeing if they want to go about. But I want to focus on Golda and Scorpina. Now they're attacking, and the Rangers are trying to defend the people, the civilians, from it. But because they had the power coins energy still flowing through them, they're immune to most of it, but they actually still can get injured. At the same time, through the movie, you could introduce Tommy Oliver, that actually, uh, it, who stumbles upon the green power coin and and having a relationship with the Rangers throughout the film. Now, that would actually cover the big cap off is that the power coins and the Zords come back. The Zords are even bigger, and the power coins gone through a metamorphosis so they can actually see what the animals are, but they can't access the powers that much. So when they put the coins on the table, Zordon scans them and actually modifies what known as the look like the power morphs on there and actually make them look more like the power morphs that we all know and love. And then they morph, and the suits would look different. They would be more like animals and more like the traditional ranger suits, so it would be a marriage between the two. I would actually like to have a belt motif on the suits. They don't have to be actual belts, but they kind of look like the belts instead of like a white stripe, or they could remain that and had something. That's one of my biggest gripes from Amazing Spider-Man is that with Andrew Garfield, the first suit he wore, it didn't have the belt motif when you look straight on it, but it's on the side and goes straight down to the boots. If it actually has that arrow, it kind of points to something not very flattering for kids show. Let's just say that. But anyways, if they had the belts motif on it, even if they don't connect completely to the morphos, it would actually show that be more true to the original suit. Now, this aspects of them having new suits, new Zords could have actually helped to sell more products for the movie, which actually would help with the budget. And the biggest climax would have the Megazord fighting not just Golda, this new version of Golda that's powered up, and but also have to fight Scorpina. And after a long battle, they actually defeated them. And then at the end of the movie, it would have Tommy becoming the new Green Ranger, but he would actually don what Rita actually originally had in the beginning of the Power Rangers. Not damaged, but also use the remainder of the gold to encapsulate so it actually would corrupt the coin as well. The third movie, if they did it right, they could have actually had him trying to fight against the control, and then actually, with the Rangers' help, um, purify it, and the energy from the buildup of their weapons that they got actually could have overload and purified the gold and the power the green power coin, and then it would gone through a metamorphosis, and also uh, the dragon sword that they would have at the end of the third movie. So it would actually be something in that line. The third movie would be the essentially the third movie would be in the Green with Evil storyline. That's what I would have done. The so the second movie would have redesigned suits, Zords, and the reveal of what we know to be Golda, but also Scorpina. The third movie would introduce Green Ranger. The ant would reflect more of the first suits, but then metamorphs into, after being defeated, probably like uh, 2/3 into the movie, it goes through metamorphosis, after, but not before they show what the Dragon Zord that Rita had, that's formatted to an alien dragon. And then once it was defeated, it went through metamorphs and able to combine with the Megazord that they had at the time. So that's what I would have done for the movie if I actually was able to make a. If I actually was at the table for the writing and development of this movie. So that's my review. I'm sorry I actually made this too long. I'm hoping this, but hopefully that's my opinion of, of the movie. So, what did we cover? The reason that the movie failed, I strongly think, is that they didn't understand the franchise and try to make it too try based it on real life technology. Uh, they didn't really understand that it's not just crystal, but it's the suits are supposed to be energy based, nanoparticles. Uh, and they try to put too much details and toys and stuff, and that the Zords didn't reflect the animals. Just a lot of bad choices, I feel like, in the movie. This is, uh, I wish I could have actually just, I wish I had the connections to actually be a consultant on this movie, so I could actually tell them, if you guys go that route, most likely this is going to happen, and that, such and such. I'm not trying to actually uh, be controlling of what the movie would have been. I would just simply say, you guys probably don't want to do this. You guys probably want to connect with these people, so that, because a movie like this has to have a property to sell items. So, with that, I hope I actually try to explain myself as best as possible, and such, and that's it. Toodles.